Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to show you my OBS as well as my Premiere Pro export settings so that you can get a high quality video like me while using your CPU or even your GPU. So let's get started. So first, let's go to your OBS settings. If you don't have OBS yet, well, just download it. Links down in the description below. It's very easy to install, or you could just watch a YouTube tutorial video on how to install it. So we have your base canvas resolution. Make sure this is 16 by 9. So we have a 1600 by 900 or your monitor resolution or the resolution that you put into. We have here the output scaled resolution. Just put that to the same thing as the canvas resolution. As if you put this into like a lower resolution, that will like also downscale it, which means it will increase the CPU more, so we don't need downscale filter here. So by default, this thing is set to common and FPS values, but if you want to have more than 60 FPS, you can actually select fractional FPS value, and the numerator is going to be the FPS. Denominator is going to be 1. So what's it supposed to mean? Well, yeah, it's basically fraction. If you just do 144 divided by 1, that'll be equal to 144, thus 144 FPS. So let's go to output. Let's go to recording. Now here is where things get complicated. Not that complicated, because some people aren't confused about this on what encoder they should use. So if you have an NVIDIA GTX card, you might have NVENC on it, or an RTX card, which will have NVIDIA NVENC New. So in here, in the encoder, you can select NVIDIA NVENC. So yeah, NVIDIA NVENC H.264. But if you only have like an NVIDIA GT 1030 like me, or 730, you might as well can set this to X264, because your CPU isn't really being used by the system or by the game too much, because all things go to the GPU itself. So we have our encoder X264. You can do X264 or you can do NVENC. By your choice, but as possible, just set this to like NVENC if you really have a GTX card. So for encoder settings, we have the rate control. By default, this is like CBR, and I really don't recommend CBR unless it's for streaming. Now CBR stands for constant bit rate, and that is very much used when streaming, but not recording, because if you actually put this into like a higher number, it's still bad quality, but large file size, which is really not what you want at all. But for recording, I recommend setting this to CRF. Now, here's the thing, the values of CRF is ranging from 1 to 30, higher being the lower bitrate and lower being the higher bitrate. So I don't recommend this like setting to 1 at all, because that will like turn like a 15-second video into like probably 5 GB or something. But I just recommend this putting it at 16 to 22 or 15 to 22, whatever it is your sweet spot. But my sweet spot is at 16. So once you have set that, go to keyframe interval. Just make sure this is 0. You don't have anything to do with it. So for CPU usage preset, this is very important. By default, this is set to be very fast. But the thing is, very fast is like basically the slower you go, the basically how much CPU bandwidth it just goes into. So if you put this to placebo, this will like consume all of your CPU, but it's still high quality, but it's too much. So I recommend putting it to super fast or ultra fast. But ultra fast for me is the best option, because it doesn't use that much CPU at all, saving up resources for your game that is like CPU intensive and crap. If you put the super some people prefer putting this to super fast. It's up to them, but I prefer ultra fast for CRF. And yeah, so it's still good quality. So profile, you set that to high, tune, none, and you don't put in anything here, and just click on apply. And yeah, you could just do things whatever you want. So audio track, make sure you don't select this all. It can like consume your CPU, because it's also saving all the audio tracks. It's really unnecessary. You only need to use one track unless you're doing Twitch VODs and like stuff. So for audio, just put this all to like 160. It really saves up your CPU. And yeah, that's really it. Let's go to Premiere Pro. So we're now here at Premiere Pro. So the first thing you need to do, of course, is to make a brand new project. And you can name this whatever you want. I'm just gonna call it YouTube 144 FPS, whatever you want to call it. For me, when I'm recording right now, I don't really recommend setting it to software because it also uses CPU if you're using X264 encoder, which will frame drop you just a bit. So yeah, we could just put it like that. So let's just wait for Premiere Pro to load. Once this loads, we're gonna go to your in your footage folder and whatever you set to 144 FPS. So right here we have our footage from earlier, so we're just gonna go and drag that into Premiere Pro into the timeline. That's the wrong footage. So we're just gonna put it here at the timeline, and that should import. So yeah, so as you can see, this is my previous recording from earlier, so we could just go ahead and do things with this. So firstly, we're gonna go to sequence settings. So if you don't know where sequence settings is, well, just go to sequence right over here at the top left corner. Then you go to sequence and go to sequence settings. So for the sequence settings, the time base will be 60 frames per second because currently YouTube doesn't support 144 FPS because that'll be total garbage. So put it to 60 FPS, and we're gonna go and put in the motion blur later on. Now put this to maximum bit depth as well as maximum render quality, even though this will like increase the encoding time, whatever, it's up to you. So we have the footage here. We need to right click on it and put it to time interpolation and frame blending, so that we can get that motion blur effect. Now go to export. If you don't know where export is, just go to your top left corner, once again on the file and export media. Now you go here to preset, and you go to high quality 1080p HD. Then you go down, you just turn that on. Then time interpolation, make sure this is frame blending, and you get that motion blur effect, and you just basically export this. So that's really all. That's all my encoder settings. You can change it if you want to. It's your preference, but that's it. Thanks for watching.